She came back from Miami looking like someone else had touched her soul. It was the way she walked in, rolling that silver suitcase over the hardwood floor like she was returning from a damn honeymoon. Her hair was curled tighter than when she left, lips glossed, cheeks warm from a sun I hadn't seen in a week. I hugged her and she leaned into me like she was trying not to inhale too much. Ashley had been gone 4 days. Company conference, she'd said. Some new leadership seminar or whatever corporate jargon she spun in circles like confetti. I hadn't questioned it. We'd been trying to reconnect. I figured a few days apart might light a spark again. I was wrong. It didn't light a spark. It lit a fuse. First red flag? She never unpacked. She rolled that suitcase into the laundry room, closed the door behind it, and told me she was too tired to talk. Too tired? She used to give me play-by-plays for hours after a 3-hour Target run. And now, after 4 days in a city she'd never been to, she said nothing? Not even what the hotel looked like. That woman used to send me pictures of the bedsheets when she traveled. Now, radio silence. I didn't press. Not yet. I convinced myself I was being dramatic. Marriage had been, well, it had been work lately. Cold silences over dinner, half-hearted touches in bed. That space between us growing wider no matter how much I reached. So yeah, maybe she was just exhausted. Then came the second red flag. She started avoiding me, like actually dodging me around the house. Bathroom doors locked. Showers at weird hours. Phone always face down. And she'd laugh at things on her phone but quickly swipe them away when I walked by. I told myself to stop being paranoid. Until the night I found her crying in the downstairs bathroom. I heard it through the door, short, sharp sobs, not the kind that want comfort, but the kind that burst out like a leak in a pipe. I knocked. She didn't answer. When she finally came out, her eyes were raw, mascara smudged like war paint. I asked her what was wrong. She looked at me like I was a stranger. I'm just tired. It's nothing. I'm fine. Fine. That word. That goddamn cursed word. Couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling while she snored beside me like nothing had cracked. But I felt it. That subtle shift. The air in the room had changed. Thicker. Quiet like a storm before it hits. 1 week later, she missed her period. And that was when it all began to unravel, piece by jagged piece. We'd been trying for a year. Temp charts, ovulation strips, all of it. When she told me she was late, I was over the moon. I wrapped my arms around her and laughed into her neck like a fool. She didn't laugh. She smiled. That fake, paper-thin smile I now hate with everything in me. I'll get a test, she said, quietly, like the words burned her tongue. She took it the next morning. I waited outside the bathroom like a kid on Christmas. When she came out, the stick shook in her hand. Positive. But she didn't cry tears of joy. She looked like she was staring at a death sentence. And I knew then something was wrong. Not just wrong, rotten. Like the truth was buried under 100 feet of lies, and I was standing on top of it. That was the last night I slept beside her. Because the next day, I opened her suitcase. And what I found in there snapped the world I thought I knew in half. Her suitcase still smelled like the hotel. That sterile, lemony clean scent that never belongs in our house. I waited until she left for her doctor's appointment, her words, and I went straight for the laundry room. The silver case sat tucked behind the door, untouched for nearly a week. That alone made no sense. Ashley was the type to unpack within the hour, fold every item, and toss the whole bag in the closet like it never existed. I popped the latches open slowly. I remember my heart beating in my ears like it knew before my mind caught up. Inside, her clothes were barely disturbed. I found the red dress I hadn't seen in years, the one with the slit that ran too high for comfort. Wrinkled and stuffed beside a pair of heels she told me she'd donated last summer. Her makeup bag was open. Half the bottles weren't hers. But then I saw it. In the side pocket, tucked underneath some flyers and a crumpled receipt. A hotel keycard. One of those with a fancy geometric logo. Not her company's hotel. I know that because I looked it up instantly. Hers was a Hilton. This was from a boutique hotel 10 blocks away. And there was a receipt, dated 2 days into her conference. Room service for 2. Steak, wine, chocolate lava cake. I sat on the floor reading it again and again like it might suddenly make sense. That was the moment the world went quiet. Not just in the house. In my chest. Something in me. Something old, trusting, dumb, curled up and died. She came home a few hours later, humming something under her breath like a woman without a care in the damn world. I was still sitting in the kitchen. She walked in, tossed her keys in the bowl, and gave me that paper-thin smile. "You okay?" she asked, toeing off her shoes. I didn't say a word, just slid the receipt across the counter. She looked at it, looked back at me, and for 1 second her face cracked. Just one tiny second. But I saw it. The truth. She knew she was caught. She tried to play it cool. "Oh, that's probably from one of the dinners. The team went out. I think that's from..." "The team?" "The team didn't stay at that hotel." Pause. We met some people at a mixer. Clients. It was just drinks." I leaned forward. "You ordered wine. You don't drink red wine, Ashley." Silence. Then the mask dropped. Her voice turned cold. "Why are you going through my stuff?" "Because you're lying to me." Another pause. Then she shrugged. Actually shrugged. Like I just asked why the thermostat was turned up. "I didn't think you'd notice." That line. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. She didn't think I'd notice. Like I was some furniture she could walk past without consequence. Like I didn't matter enough to deceive properly. That was the first time I walked out. No yelling. No questions. I just grabbed my keys and left the house, because if I stayed, I might have said things I couldn't take back. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. For hours. By the time I came home, she was asleep. But I wasn't tired. I was planning. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She made coffee. Asked if I wanted toast. Toast. After dismantling our entire marriage with a shrug, she wanted to know if I wanted rye or sourdough. I watched her from across the table, studying every movement. The way she avoided eye contact, how she clutched her mug too tight, how her phone never left the counter unless she physically carried it with her. I didn't say a word. I let her play the role, because something in me had snapped into place. Not broken, no. Clicked. Cold. Quiet. Focused. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to plead. I was going to find out everything. Down to the last miserable detail. So I started small. That afternoon, I drove to the hotel listed on the receipt. Walked in like I owned the place. Told the front desk I was double-checking a reservation for a corporate partner. Gave Ashley's name and the exact date. The woman typed. Paused. Typed again. "No reservation under that name," she said. "Are you sure of the spelling?" I was. She tried again. "Was the room maybe booked under someone else's name?" It hit me like ice water. Of course it was. She wouldn't be that stupid. But the clerk's expression changed. Just a flicker. Like she'd recognized something but wasn't allowed to say. So I thanked her, smiled, and walked right out. Later that night, while Ashley was in the shower, I opened her laptop. She never used it much anymore. Everything was on her phone. But this thing was like a ghost town frozen in time. Except for one detail. Private email tab still open. She'd logged into a Gmail account I'd never seen before. The username was just a nickname, ash.wanderlust. Cute. The inbox was almost empty. Deleted recently. But I clicked the trash folder and there it was. An email thread with someone named J. Dozens of messages. Some one-liners. Others long, emotional dumps. But I didn't need to read all of them. I only read one. Dated 3 days after she returned from Miami. "I think it's yours. I haven't told him. He thinks it's his. I can't even look at him." I sat there, breath stalled in my chest, staring at the screen like it might catch fire. My hands shook. My jaw ached from how hard I was grinding my teeth. She knew. She knew from the start it wasn't mine. She knew and she lied anyway. Smiling in my face, letting me hold her, dream about names and nurseries, while her body carried a lie with a pulse. I closed the laptop gently, walked back into the kitchen. She came out of the shower in a robe, humming, and when our eyes met, she froze. Not because she knew I had seen the emails, not yet. but because something had changed in me. I smiled. Warm. Soft. You okay? She asked. I'm great, I said. And I was. Because now I had proof. I had clarity. And soon I would have a plan. The day I called the number from the email signature, it was raining so hard the windshield wipers could barely keep up. I parked in a grocery store lot a few towns over, hands tight around my phone, staring at the contact info Ashley had so casually exchanged with her little secret lover, Jay. No last name, just a number, an area code I didn't recognize. I wasn't sure what I expected. A voicemail? A fake number? A confrontation I wasn't ready for? What I didn't expect was him picking up. Instantly. Yeah. The voice was young, cocky, a smirk hidden under syllables. I didn't speak for a few seconds. I just listened, let the silence build. Hello? He repeated. You know who this is? I said, calm as a man with a loaded weapon behind his back. A pause, then a chuckle. I swear to God he laughed. Oh. Let me guess, he said. The husband. Bastard. I didn't give him the satisfaction of hearing rage. I kept my tone even. You've been sleeping with my wife. Look, man, he replied, way too casual. That's between you and her. She didn't exactly tell me she was married. All right? Not at first. She's pregnant. Silence. Then, oh, not smug anymore. Just stupid. Yeah, I said. You didn't know that part, huh? He tried to backpedal. She said it might be yours. Don't lie for her. I cut in. She already did enough of that. I read the emails. I saw the hotel bill. I know. Another pause. Then, almost annoyed, he muttered, well, it's not like I told her to lie. I hung up. There was nothing more I needed from him. I didn't want an apology. I didn't want a damn explanation. I wanted to remember his voice, his careless tone, the lack of guilt. I wanted it burned into my memory for what was coming next. When I got home, Ashley was sitting on the couch with a blanket over her legs and some trash TV playing in the background. She looked up at me like nothing had happened. You want dinner? That was the moment I walked in front of the TV, pulled her laptop out of my bag, opened it to the email, and tilted it toward her. Her eyes locked on the screen, then flicked up to mine. She didn't even flinch. Why were you in my laptop? She asked, like that was the crime. I talked to him, I said. Jay. He knows. I know. You lied about everything. She pulled the blanket tighter. Her face turned into stone. You had no right. I stepped closer. You had no right to make me believe this was our baby. To stand in that bathroom crying and let me hold you. To lie while you carried someone else's mistake. Her jaw clenched. You want the truth? Fine. I didn't want to hurt you. But you don't get to act like some saint. You've been emotionally gone for months. I was alone. I blinked. So you solved it by playing house in Florida with some stranger? He made me feel seen, she snapped. He made me feel like I mattered. And now what, Ashley? I asked, voice low. You gonna raise his kid with me? Keep lying? Or were you hoping I'd never figure it out? She looked away, and that was answer enough. I stood there for a long moment watching her face, still cold, indifferent. Then I said 6 words I'd been holding in for days. You need to get out tonight. She didn't move. She sat there with the blanket clutched like armor, blinking at me as if I'd just spoken in another language. What? She said, mouth dry. I repeated, slower this time. You need to get out. Tonight. Ashley scoffed. Actually scoffed. You're kicking me out of our house? No. I'm removing the person who burned it to the ground. She stood up then, slowly, like she thought this was still a debate. You're not thinking straight. You're angry, and you have every right to be, but I don't have anywhere to go. You had somewhere to go in Miami. That shut her up. I walked over to the coat rack and tossed her keys onto the table. You can go to a hotel. Call your mom, Jay. Anyone. But you're not staying here tonight. Not under this roof. Not after this. She started pacing, rubbing her temples like she was the one in pain. You're being dramatic. I laughed, sharp and hollow. I'm being dramatic? You lied to my face. Slept with another man. Came home and fed me a fantasy while carrying his child. That's not drama, Ashley. That's treachery. Her face hardened. Don't talk to me like I'm some villain. You are, I said simply. You're not some confused girl who made a mistake. You calculated this. You curated this lie, every detail. And you still didn't come clean. I had to dig for it like I was scraping filth off the floor. She grabbed her phone, shoved it in her bag. Fine, I'll leave. But don't think for a second this is over. You don't just get to throw me out like I'm some stray dog. I opened the front door. She stood there for a second, eyes narrowed. You know what your problem is, Daniel? You think being loyal makes you better. But you were boring. Predictable. You stopped trying. So yeah, I found someone who reminded me I was still wanted. Sorry you can't handle that. I didn't say a word. I just held the door open and waited. She walked past me without another look, heels clicking down the porch like a punctuation mark at the end of a long, disgusting sentence. The door slammed behind her, and suddenly, the silence in the house was louder than her voice had ever been. I sat on the stairs, staring at the floor, and something inside me finally gave way. The anger, the numbness, the cold resolve. All of it cracked at the edges. What seeped out wasn't tears. It was grief. Grief for the life I thought I had. For the woman I thought I loved. For the future that had been carefully drawn and violently torn to shreds. She was gone. And in her place there was just a mess, a lie, and the sound of a man breathing in a house that no longer felt like his. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. The house was still, but it felt foreign. Every creak, every shadow on the walls, even the smell of her shampoo lingering on the pillow, all of it made my skin crawl. By morning, my body felt like it had aged 10 years. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the counter where she used to leave little notes, and I felt nothing but disgust. Her handwriting used to make me smile. Now I wanted to burn every scrap of paper in this house that bore her name. I called my friend Marcus. I hadn't told him anything yet, hadn't told anyone. But when he picked up and heard my voice, he knew something was wrong. Dan, she cheated, I said flatly. She's pregnant. It's not mine. Silence. Then, I'm coming over. He arrived within the hour. No questions, no judgment. Just a six-pack and the kind of look men give each other when words fail. We sat on the porch. It was cold, but neither of us cared. What are you gonna do? He asked finally. I already told her to leave. She's gone. He nodded. You think she'll come crawling back? I didn't answer right away. She's not the crawling type, I said. She's the kind who rewrites the story so she doesn't look like the villain. And I was right. That afternoon, I got a message from her. Not a call. A text. You threw me out without even letting me explain. I was alone. I made a mistake. But you're acting like you never failed me either. I thought we were in this together. I guess I was wrong. No apology. No ownership. Just blame, carefully repackaged and delivered with a bow of manipulation. I didn't reply. Instead, I made an appointment with a lawyer. It felt surreal, saying the words out loud. I want to file for divorce. The woman behind the desk was kind, efficient. She walked me through everything. Property, assets, what it meant if the baby was confirmed not to be mine. We weren't rich, but we'd built things together, a home, joint accounts, investments. Untangling that was going to be a war of paper cuts and signatures. But I was ready. I had to be. I went home and boxed up her things. Methodically, quietly. I didn't rage through drawers or tear clothes apart. I folded every blouse, every photo, every trace of her like I was removing poison from a wound. That night, she called. I let it ring. Then she left a voicemail. Dan, please, we need to talk. I don't want it to end like this. I made a mistake. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't expect to feel what I felt. But it wasn't all fake. We weren't all fake. Please. I stared at the wall until her voice faded. Then I deleted the message. Because I knew what it was. It wasn't love. It wasn't regret. It was fear. Fear of losing comfort. control, reputation, and I wasn't going to be her safety net. Not anymore. The strange part about betrayal is how quickly everything around you becomes a stage prop. The house we'd built together now felt like a set from a show that got canceled mid-season. Her robe hanging behind the door? Costume. The wine glasses in the cabinet? Useless props from scenes that meant nothing now. Every drawer I opened carried her scent. Every step on the staircase echoed memories I didn't ask for. I kept waiting for some kind of clarity, a righteous anger, maybe a scream from deep in my gut. But all I felt was exhaustion, a kind of hollow fatigue that doesn't go away with sleep or food, like my soul had been pulled through a filter and left out to dry. And then, because life has a twisted sense of humor, Ashley showed up 2 days later, unannounced, standing on my porch like she hadn't detonated the entire foundation of our lives. She wore that soft green sweater I bought her last Christmas and held a duffel bag in one hand and some papers in the other. I didn't open the door at first. I just stood behind the curtain and watched her, breathing slowly, trying to remember that I didn't owe her anything. Not anymore. She knocked. Again. Again. I opened it just wide enough to step outside and close it behind me. She looked up at me with those big, watery eyes, the same ones she used to use when she wanted something. Except now, they didn't work on me. "Can we talk?" she asked. "You've got 10 minutes. She didn't look surprised. She nodded, sat down on the porch step like it was her spot again. I stayed standing. "I went to the doctor," she started. "I told them everything. I'm going to get a paternity test. I think it's the right thing to do." I said nothing, just stared. I know I messed up. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I'm not just here to beg you to take me back. I'm not stupid. Could have fooled me. That cut her. Good. I'm here because I wanted you to hear it from me first. If it turns out the baby isn't yours, I'll waive any claim. No child support. Nothing. I'll sign whatever you want. I narrowed my eyes. What changed? She looked down. "Jay. He's not answering anymore. He's ghosting me. He said he wasn't ready to be a dad and that I should handle it however I want." I almost laughed. Almost. The fantasy life she thought she was building? Gone in a text message. "So now you're back here," I said. "Because reality finally caught up to you." "I didn't come back to be saved," she said, voice shaking. "I came back to clean up the mess I made." "No," I said quietly. "You came back because you realized the grass wasn't greener. You set fire to your own lawn and now you're trying to pitch a tent on mine." She blinked, stunned. "I already filed," I added. "You'll get served next week." Her breath hitched. "But hey," I said, voice colder than I ever knew I was capable of. "Thanks for the closure." I walked back inside, leaving her on the steps. And this time I didn't look back. The papers went out that Monday. I had them sent to her temporary address, a friend's place she'd mentioned in passing once, probably assuming I wasn't listening. But I remembered. I remembered everything now. Every slip-up, every fake excuse, every little story that didn't add up. Like suddenly my memory had sharpened under pressure. She signed. No fight. No attempt to stall or twist the knife further. Maybe she realized she had no leverage anymore. Or maybe she was just tired. Either way, I didn't care. The moment I got the confirmation email from my lawyer, something inside me loosened, but not for long, because then came his message. Jay, that spineless little ghost of a man, the one who had vanished the moment things got real, somehow worked up the nerve to text me. Not call, not apologize, just a single, smug little message that lit my hands on fire. "Guess you're raising my kid now. Good luck." It took every ounce of self-control not to throw my phone across the room. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, slowly, "There's not a single version of this world where I'd raise a child tied to your name. You gave her a fantasy. I gave her a life. She threw it away. And you? You'll always be the mistake she regrets when she's alone and broke with nothing but your DNA to curse." I hit send. Blocked the number. I thought that would be the end of it. But life doesn't tie itself up that neatly. Does it? 3 days later, Ashley showed up again. This time not on the porch, but at my job. Right in the parking lot, cornering me like a desperate storm in human form. Her eyes were wild, hair in a mess. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "I need to talk to you," she said, grabbing my arm. I yanked it away. "What part of we're done do you not understand?" Her voice cracked. "It's not about us. It's about the baby." I didn't say anything. I got the results. I couldn't even open it alone. She reached into her bag and pulled out the envelope. Unopened. Sealed. She held it out to me like it was holy scripture. "Open it with me?" she whispered. "No," I said, stepping back. "That's your truth to live with. You made this. You own it." She just stood there, small, diminished, shaking. "I don't want to do this alone," she said, tears slipping down. "You should have thought about that in Miami," I said. And then I walked away, because some choices are final. And this wasn't just a chapter ending. It was a book burning. A week passed. The silence was strange. Not empty, just cleaner, quieter. Like the aftermath of a storm when the world hasn't quite remembered how to move again. For the first time in months, my house didn't feel like a lie. Her things were gone. The air was mine again. And my phone didn't buzz with fake apologies or half-hearted guilt trips. Then, one morning, I woke up to a knock on the door. I opened it and there she was, Ashley, holding a piece of paper. She looked different. Not broken, not begging, but hollow. Like someone who had finally read the ending of a story and realized they weren't the hero. "I thought you blocked me," she said quietly. "I did." She nodded, then held out the paper. I opened it. I didn't take it. "You were right," she said. "It's not yours." She said it so calmly it felt unreal. Like she had rehearsed it 1,000 times in the mirror and now was performing it in front of the only audience that mattered. I crossed my arms. "And what do you want me to say?" "Nothing," she said. "I just thought you should hear it from me. I owe you that." "No," I said, finally taking the paper, glancing at the results just long enough to confirm what I already knew. "You don't owe me anything. You stole from me. You took the future we built, ripped it to pieces, and handed it to a stranger." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. Couldn't. She wiped them before they fell. "I'm keeping the baby." I nodded slowly. "Good. That's your responsibility now. Yours and his. I'm not asking for anything." "I know," I said, "because I have nothing left for you." She swallowed hard. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." I looked her in the eyes for the last time. "You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry it didn't go the way you fantasized. You're not sorry for what you did, just for the consequences." She had no comeback, just stood there shivering in the wind. I stepped back and shut the door. And that was it. That was the real ending. Not with a scream or a sob or some final desperate plea. Just a door. Closed. Permanently. Life after Ashley was quiet. Not peaceful, not yet, but quiet in a way that let me breathe without choking on second guesses. The finality of it all didn't hit me like a punch. It landed slowly, like snowfall. Her toothbrush no longer beside mine. Her perfume no longer wafting through the hallway. No more misplaced coffee mugs or charger wars or ghost-like footsteps padding into the kitchen while I pretended to still be asleep. The silence became a strange comfort. I started rebuilding piece by piece. First, I scrubbed the house. Every drawer, every closet. I boxed up the photos, the anniversary cards, the trinkets we picked up on trips she probably pretended to enjoy. All of it went into the attic. Not the trash. Not yet. Maybe someday. But for now, I needed it gone. Not destroyed, just removed from view like a tumor sealed in glass. I took time off work. Not a lot, just enough. Enough to sit with myself and feel the sting of everything without rushing past it. I talked to a therapist. Told Marcus the full story. He took me out for drinks and didn't say, "I told you so," even though I could see it flashing in his eyes. One night, I drove past her friend's place, the one she'd stayed at. Lights were off. I didn't stop. I didn't know why I drove by, only that some part of me wanted to see the nothingness. to confirm she was no longer tethered to my life in any visible way. Weeks turned into a month. Then the letter came, handwritten. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Inside, a folded page. Short, sincere-looking, maybe even genuine, but by now I couldn't tell the difference. Daniel, I know you don't want to hear from me again. I understand that. This isn't a plea. I just wanted to thank you for being kind longer than I deserved, for loving me when I didn't even love myself. I don't expect forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it. I just wanted to say goodbye the right way. Hey, no date, no contact number, just that. I didn't cry. I didn't tear it up either. I slid it into a drawer with the other paper ghosts and closed it quietly. Because healing isn't a moment. It's 1,000 small ones. And I was finally learning to live again, not as the man she broke, but as the man who survived. Months passed, and the dust finally settled. The divorce was finalized. The house felt like my own again, and the weight of betrayal, though still heavy, no longer crushed me every waking moment. It became something I carried with me, but not something that defined me. I started dating again, slowly, awkwardly, like a kid learning to walk. The first coffee date after Ashley felt like stepping into a spotlight I wasn't ready for, but I went anyway. The woman on the other side wasn't Ashley, thank God. She was someone new, someone honest, whose laugh wasn't edged with lies. Work improved. I got back into running. Those early morning jogs that Ashley never cared about became my therapy sessions, moments where I chased my own breath and lost the noise of the past. One afternoon, Marcus and I sat in the backyard, beers in hand, and he asked the question I'd been dodging. So, what did this all teach you? I looked up at the sky, the sun warm on my face, and said something I hadn't fully realized until that moment. That people aren't always who they say they are. That love can be a weapon or a shield. That sometimes the hardest thing to do is let go of someone you thought was your forever, even when they prove they're not. Marcus nodded, cracking a smile. Sounds like you're ready for whatever comes next. Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. But one thing was certain. I was no longer a prisoner of her lies. And if that's what freedom looked like, I was ready to claim it. So here I am, read it. Broken, yes. Angry, yes. But healing. Stronger than I ever thought I could be. If you're reading this because you're hurting, because someone you trusted shattered your world, know this, you're not alone. You will hurt. You will question everything. But you will rise. Because sometimes, the only way out is through. And the only way forward is to choose yourself. That's what I'm doing now. One day at a time. The final piece fell into place when I saw her name again. Not on a text, not in a message, but in the news. A local paper ran a story about a woman who'd started a nonprofit for single mothers. The face was hers. Ashley's. The headline painted her as a hero, someone overcoming hardship and giving back. I read the article twice. The carefully curated photos of her smiling with kids, holding babies, shaking hands with donors. The quotes about resilience, strength, and second chances. I felt something strange. Not anger, not bitterness, but pity, because I knew the truth beneath the surface. The real story behind the smiles. The lies she told, the lives she broke. And I realized then that she had moved on, rewritten her own narrative, made herself the protagonist of a new tale. Good for her. But me? I'm done being a supporting character in her story. I've spent the last year rebuilding. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting what was and choosing not to let it poison what comes next. I don't know what the future holds, or if I'll ever fully heal. But I do know one thing. I'm finally free. Free from the lies, free from the betrayal, free from the weight of a woman who chose to burn our house down and walk away without looking back. And that freedom is the hardest, sweetest gift I never asked for. Thanks for reading. If you're in the middle of this hell, keep holding on. There's life after the lies. There's hope beyond the heartbreak. You just have to be brave enough to take the first step.